Native American, because that's the particular subclade. I'm just throwing those out because I'm not looking at the tree right now.
So if
no, but you're saying just C.
Okay, if a pretendian even has a subclade, it doesn't matter what the subclass, what it is. It all still goes back to C, does it not? If it's C12 or C3B1 or CA, whatever the subclade
but
is.
if they have that, then they do have someone native in their line.
Hold on. They will not have L anywhere in there, right? Because it's still a C haplogroup in general, is it not?
But if they're black, right, then that means they have a paternal. They would be Afro-Indigenous.
I'm talking about, I just said this, if my granddaughter is she's still Native American, you agreed with me that, but she has an L haplogroup. That means she has an ancestor who was from Africa. But you can have a pretendian who has a female Native American in their line, and that female Native American passes down an A, B, or C, or D haplogroup. Then they're going to start claiming, well, see, guys, I don't have that L haplogroup you said I was going to have. I have the A haplogroup.
How many people you see doing that? How many African Americans you see coming up with that specific one?
Wait. Then you can apply that. You can apply that to every other group and not just the black people. You can apply that to Europeans. You can apply that to anybody else, because that happens.
Listen to me. Stop cutting me off. So if I'm not applying it just to black people, I'm giving you what I've already seen, because I've seen some pretendians who have an A or B or C haplogroup. Whatever the subclade is, it doesn't matter. It's still A, B, or C, because you guys keep saying if you're Native American, you're A, B, C, D, and X. But they have that haplogroup. So now they're going to start saying that they're Native American. Now, just like when we're talking about, you can have somebody who's Native American, but has 6 generations ago, their great-great-grandmother was European. So their 6 times great-grandmother was European. But everybody else continued to mix in with natives after that. Because she married a native, and then their child married another native, and their child married another native, and their child married another native. That haplogroup is still staying there. So they can still have a European haplogroup, but they're still Native American. A haplogroup doesn't determine, it only determines one line of when your ancestor came from, one line of that. Not every line you have. Because you can only see one line of mitochondrial DNA, because only one line of mitochondrial DNA gets passed down to you. My granddaughter would still be Native American, even though she has an African mother. She would be both Native and African. But her haplogroup is only going to reflect Africa. Does that not mean she's Native American? No, it doesn't. And this is the problem with the rhetoric and having to be able to explain this in the way that you guys are explaining it, because it's making it seem like if your haplogroup is this, you are this, no matter what. But that's not true, because everybody has admixture. And that admixture is not significant of your cultural practices. This is why when I talk to the pretendians, the only things I ask them is, what culture do you currently practice? What culture did you grow up with? Because that's going to determine who you are.
No, that's not true.
It does, because race.
Because I've seen a lot of people that were disconnected that haven't grown up like that.
Right, but you can reconnect to that. And I even showed you in the video when I said everybody was African. I showed you where I don't say that to pretendians. I told Opium the same thing. I told Opium, I don't care what you claim to be. Can you prove that you're from this tribe? If you can, then go reconnect back to those people. And go be the culture that you are claiming to be. Don't push erasure. Don't revise history. That's what I tell the pretendians all the time, because I don't know their genealogy. I don't know their genetics. But what I do tell them is, if you do your DNA and you see that you have African ancestors, don't deny you have African ancestors. If they don't want to claim them, that's up to them. Whatever reasons why they don't want to claim them, that's up to them. But they can't deny that they have them. But that's what they're doing. They're denying they have 0 African ancestors. And we know that that's not true. We cannot be using DNA tests to validate or invalidate anybody's identity, because it's ethnicity that matters. How you grew up, which cultures you practice. Just like when you guys bring up my Spanish DNA, cool, I got Spanish ancestors. I don't deny it. I don't claim them because I don't, one, practice Spanish culture. Two, I never said all of my Spanish ancestors were rapists, but a good majority of them were. So I don't claim people who have disgusting habits of marrying children. Would you claim those types of people? No, you wouldn't. My DNA is not a reflection of my ethnicity. My ethnicity is Mexican. My Mexican culture is vast majority indigenous cultures, indigenous traditions, indigenous ways, indigenous foods. Everything about my culture, with the exception of the forced Spanish language and Catholicism, is indigenous. That's what makes me indigenous. Not how I present to the world, not what my DNA says. It's the culture I practice. That's why when I talk to the pretendians, I don't ask them. I tell them, just go do a DNA test to find out your matches, so you can find out if you have relatives, cousins, or aunties, or somebody that you've never met that may are connected to a tribe, and they can give you your genealogy to tell you something. Hey, what? Go ahead.
I just want to clarify. So you grew up indigenous. You always known that you were native, correct?
Yes. I just didn't know which tribe I came from. I knew I was always native because of my culture, but I didn't know which tribe we came from, which is why my ethnicity is Mexican. Otherwise, I now know, I found out a year and a half ago, which tribe I descend from genealogy. I descend from the Tewa Pueblo people. I didn't grow up in Tewa culture, so I don't claim to be Tewa specifically. I say I descend from the Tewa because I didn't grow up in their culture. I grew up as a Mexican person in Mexican culture. That's why I say I'm Mexican indigenous, and I descend from the Tewa people. And anybody who has been a mutual of mine and has followed me and paid attention to my videos and my lives can say that I have consistently said that for the past 2 years. And when I found out which tribe I descended from, I have consistently said, I descend from the Tewa Pueblos. But I didn't practice Tewa culture. See, indigenous culture is not homogenized. Every tribe is their own ethnic group. It's their own cultural group. Tewa culture is not the same as Lakota culture. They're two different ethnic groups. They're still both indigenous. Detribalized Mexicans, just like you guys are detribalized Africans, are still African, just like we are still indigenous as Mexican people. We're just detribalized. You always knew you were African. I always knew I was native. But I just didn't grow up in my specific tribal culture, just like you didn't grow up in your specific tribal culture. Does that make sense now? And on top of that, anybody thinking that they can call me white, I can promise you, if I was a white woman, no white woman is being called a WB. I've been called that several times in my life. No white woman is being called a beaner. I've been called that several times in my life. No white woman is being randomly walked up to and getting Spanish spoken to them because they think that they're Mexican. That happens to me all the time. I can go into a gas station and someone will start speaking Spanish to me because they see I'm obviously not a white woman. But DNA will not and ever validate what somebody is as how they identify. All it's showing you is you got some ancestors that came from here. You got some ancestors that came from here. More came from here than others. But how did you grow up? And if you're disconnected, just like me, just like you, then reconnect back to those tribes if you can find them. If you can't, reconnect back to as much indigenous cultures or as much African culture as you possibly can. Because unfortunately, due to colonization, that's what it left us with.
I understand what you're saying, and that's great. But we're going to get back to genetics, and genetic evidence says that the people of America come from certain Pan-American haplogroups, A, B, C, D, Q, and X, that originated in East Asia. It seems like when I say this, or I've said it in the past, everybody got a problem with me saying that. What's the problem about that?
Not all Native Americans will have those haplogroups. Not all Africans. Sure. Is it a small percentage? Sure.
And we're talking about, and let me go real quick.
Generalizations. So,
and the reason why I say this, hold on, let me talk. You just said something, Brown Girl Proud. Let me finish. The information that I'm getting are from old ancient sites of America, Upward Sun River. When they sampled the DNA out of that cave, it was B2C1. When they went on your knees cave, pause. The haplogroup was D4H3. Kennewick man, X2A. All of these particular haplogroups originated in East Asia. So when I talk about that, that's the science that I'm bringing to the table. So I don't want nobody to get upset with Port City when I'm specifically talking about haplogroups and subhaplogroups and the genetic continuity that ties the East Asian population with natives. And it seems like that's where we have a misunderstanding at. And I want to get that out the way.
But it's not ancestry. These are relations. These are cousins, so to speak. And we all have them. Just like I just showed in the video I just played. We all go back to 3,500 years. All of our ancestors are the same across the board, 3,500 years.
I mean, will you call me a liar when I said it? And are you still saying I'm a liar?
No,
that was one of your first videos. You're lying for it. Hold on, let me finish. I made a video a while back. I made a video a while back. I'm not talking about autosomal stuff. I'm talking about specifically mitochondrial stuff because I'm talking about the people of America. I'm specifically talking about a subject matter of the people of America. And I was called a liar this and a liar that. When we talk about the science, I said right there, East Asians.
Ancestral. Ancestral.
Let's play what you said. And let me tell, and then I'll play my video and we'll see what actually happened. So everybody is aware, okay? Let's play it.
Since I made this post, right, that states Native American ancestry. Native American ancestry is a mixture of 2/3 East Asian and 1/3 ancestral North Eurasian ancestry. And I said in the post that some people might be offended by what I was saying. And here we are today. Now, I didn't mean any harm by that post, but I'm just stating facts. And the truth is like rain, and it don't really give a damn who it falls on. A week later, I get this comment saying, but different parts of Africa, right, shows on the Britannians' DNA, but what you're saying doesn't show up in our DNA. Big difference. Well, let's compare the two. Let's compare African American DNA to Native American DNA and see if what you're saying makes sense, or see if what I'm saying makes sense. Now, family, what you're looking at is a DNA comparison of an African American, which is me, right, compared to a Native American, right here. When you compare the two, they're different, right? I'm not a Native American, and she's clearly not an African. When you look at her DNA, it correlates with what the hell I was saying in my post. I said at least 2/3 East Asian, or at least 1/3 Eurasian. You look at her European makeup, it's a 41%. When you look at East Asian, if it pops up, it literally says East Asian.
This is where you're wrong, because this is an autosomal test. I'm not calling you a liar. I said you were wrong, and I'll play my video next, but I just want to point that out.
Just like my post did. So for you to say that it doesn't show up in Native American DNA, that's wrong. It does. And for all the parts of East Asia that you're saying it doesn't show, it shows it right here. They're telling you exactly what part of East Asian DNA is part of this native's makeup. All right? So please don't make comments up here. I understand this stuff can be a little bit upsetting to people. And I'm not out here trying to hurt feelings, right? But like I said, again, the facts is like rain, and it don't give a damn who it falls on. Okay, family? Peace. All right.
Now let's look at what I responded to you with.
Mixture of 2/3 East Asian.
Hate to tell you this, Port City, but you're wrong on this one. Matter of fact, I've already debunked Sutek on it, but unfortunately, he didn't like to accept the facts. So I'm hoping you do. First of all, let's start off with this haplogroup map that you're showing. Haplogroups can only be determined through Y DNA or mitochondrial DNA, which means you cannot compare that to autosomal DNA results. The Y chromosome allows you to follow only the paternal line, and it can go back as far as 25 generations. The mitochondrial DNA only follows the maternal line, also goes back 25 generations. And autosomal DNA tests look at locations on all chromosomes that companies have decided are best, quote unquote, ethnic matches. Therefore, this test follows both maternal and paternal, but this test can only go back as far as 5 to 6 generations, meaning that whatever random example you pulled out of the internet to show, quote unquote, Native American DNA.
Now, I understand somebody gave you this, okay? I get that. But going forward,
you're actually showing autosomal DNA. So if this person is a real person, this person would have an East Asian ancestor of about 5 to 6 generations back based on the percentage. And 5 to 6 generations back is about 150 years, which would indicate that this admixture happened post-colonization, several hundred years post-colonization, not pre.
Right there.
Now, often what happens...
Sure, go ahead.
So if you go back again, right? So what you just said about her having recent admixture, and this is why I was telling you, those are reference populations. So that East Asian has nothing to do with your lineage at all. It's not your lineage. It's saying, wait, you're missing this part. When I kept on telling you about reference panels, so that 8.5 is not your family or your ancestor or whatever. It's saying that you share markers with that population in East Asia that took the test.
And
has
it's
no,
in
you can't,
recent.
wait.
Recent.
Wait, you,
not
no,
mitochondrial.
Listen.
No.
No, don't say mitochondrial.
Autosomal. You already agreed with me that autosomal DNA and mitochondrial DNA are two different things. You compared an autosomal
BGP.
test with
just listen.
groups.
I'm trying to explain it, but every time you say mtDNA, you're confusing the two things. This is what I'm telling you. That 8.5, right? It has nothing to do with your ancestry, right? That is a whole nother unrelated group in East Asia that trace their ancestry. You're matching up to them. So it's a common ancestor for them. It's not your ancestry.
When it comes to mitochondrial DNA, yes.
Stop saying mitochondrial. We're not talking about that.
Who compared it to mitochondrial DNA? We just watched.
Okay, so wait. So what he said, right.
You're not gonna gaslight me. We just watched Port City compare. I'm not the one comparing.
There's a sample class, yo. There's a sample class that they got this from, and you guys share a common ancestry with East.
Then why does my DNA not show the same percentages that person's DNA showed?
Don't Africans share?
Stated.
Don't Africans share the same as well?
Yes.
No, not all. So look. If you replay his video, listen.
We're saying what we're saying, not all. You know.
Right. So if you replay his video, what he says, right? Like, just re-listen to what he says.
Let's go back.
What he stated. Okay. What he stated was, in this test, right? It correlates. The first thing he says, it correlates to what he's been saying, and then he also follows that up.
Let's listen to it.
Wait, before you miss it again. Hold on, wait.
Right, that states
just wait.
American ancestry. Native American ancestry is a mixture of 2/3 East Asian and 1/3 ancestral North Eurasian ancestry. And I said in the post that some people might be offended by what I was saying, and here we are today. Now, I didn't mean any harm by that post, but I'm just stating facts. And the truth is like rain, and it don't really give a damn who it falls on. A week later, I get this comment saying, but different parts of Africa, right, shows on the Britannians' DNA, but what you're saying doesn't show up in our DNA. Big difference. Well, let's compare the two. Let's compare African American DNA to Native American DNA and see if what you're saying makes sense, or see if what I'm saying makes sense. Now, family, what you're looking at is a DNA comparison.
A DNA comparison between his DNA and this Native person's DNA.
Of an African American, which is me, right, compared to a Native American, right here.
What DNA is he looking at? Okay. He's looking at autosomal DNA, right?
Go a little bit more.
Okay.
And when you compare the two, they're different, right? I'm not a Native American, and she's clearly not an African. When you look at her DNA, it correlates with what the hell I was saying in my post.
Correlates.
I said at least 2/3 East Asian.
But they don't correlate. Mitochondrial DNA does not correlate with autosomal DNA. They're two different DNAs. You agreed with me on that.
Yes, yes. But what
can't
I am telling
correlate
you,
with each other.
okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay.
BGP, can we mute up and let Rob rebuttal that, please?
Okay. So again, it correlates to what he was saying about, and it said most, right? Most Native Americans. That was the very first word, most, right? He's talking about ancient ancestral, and the word ancestral is in there as well. The populations according to science, right? So when he's looking at that test and he says it correlates, if you look at or listen to the very end, what he says is most Native Americans say that Asian does not show up, but it does show up on that test. He says that just like some people have stated, and I think you said, why doesn't it show up on mine? He is showing a particular instance where it does show up, and it does show up for, well, I think I've heard maybe 2 that said it does show up. Some people have never taken the test. So that he's just saying what it correlates to what the current science is saying. That's all it's saying.
I'd like to rebuttal him, please.
Go ahead.
First, understand that it's clear that you don't understand autosomal statistics. Autosomal statistic goes back 150 to 200 years at the most. So if you see anything that is recent with your Asian DNA, it is a recent ancestor. How many times do we have to go through this with you? How many times? How many times you're going to jailhouse lawyer yourself out of this? You've been corrected so many times, and you keep doing the same thing.
You haven't brought anything to the table.
Oh, wait. Let me have this. Wait. Because only person that's really talked, and please let me have this. Hey, artist, let me ask you, what's a reference panel? Explain it to me.
I'm not here to answer your questions.
No. You said it's been explained. The only person that talks. Wait, artist. The only person that talks is BGP. Wait, artist.
It's clear that you
Wait.
cannot understand it. And that's the reason why
cool.
you're trying to go outside of the field of understanding. You keep
Okay, cool.
to question people who have a higher degree than yourself.
So look. This is what it is. This is one thing that I can say. Hold on, artist. Listen. One thing I do respect BGP because she at least will go up and she'll say something. So I'm asking you because if anybody corrects it, only thing that you have said is autosomal statistics. So I'm asking you what a reference panel is.
I do not care about your ego.
What is a reference panel?
The only thing I'm concerned about is the science. I don't.
Okay, what's a reference panel?
Why don't you tell us
I don't
then?
claim to know everything. Okay?
Tell us about the test.
You claim we don't
Instead
know
of
anything.
autosomal
So why don't you
statistics,
tell us something.
Tell
then?
us about the test, artist.
Hang up on
JB.
Okay, that's enough.
No ganging
You
up
don't
on
need to
them.
be doing all that shit. No.
Here, do you want me
So
to
Native
One-on-one.
Mamas.
show where I debunk this?
One-on-one. I don't like that ganging up shit.
Wait, hold on.
So-
hold on. I'm gonna.
Wait,
can I
real
show the
quick,
video
BGP.
where
Can I just?
Can I show the video where I show where even me and Mofax on my live talked about this, and I show the what it says these DNA tests are showing. Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna
before
show
that,
it.
can I ask Native Mama something?
Yeah,
Native
go
Mamas.
ahead. Yeah.
Now, isn't this fair? If JB comes up here and says that we've all been debunked, that means that he would know some kind of information. So that's the only reason why he's on the panel, not to be up here, throw and say, "Oh, we've done this, won't done that," but can't answer a question. Is that fair?
Yeah. Were you coming up with some like, I don't know, something to like rebuttal with?
Yes, I'm asking
you make
him
a good
because
point. You make it. No, I know you're making a good point, but is he going to show evidence? I get that. Are you?
no, I just asked him what, like, if he is, because all he talks about is autosomal statistics, right? So when I'm mentioning reference panels, which I've shown what a reference panel, I've showed what's on my screen, but to simply ask him, since he is obviously up here and wants to rebuttal something, he should know about the subject matter, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So now that
I agree.
Now that we're done with the personal stuff, let
No,
me
no,
go.
no, BGP, please.
Does it
Because
matter at this point whether
yes, it does. It
Because he
does. It
always
does
says
because
stuff about us.
no,
Yes.
BGP. Right now, this was a one-on-one between me and JB because he wanted to rebuttal. So my rebuttal is for him to
You-
actually says what he knows.
Said inside of your argument that that Port City vibe was showing ancient DNA, and I try to tell you once again that autosomal statistic doesn't show ancient DNA. It shows DNA between 150 to 200 years. So you're incorrect. It clearly
What is it,
shows
reference
you do not
panel?
understand- It clearly shows that you do not understand autosomal statistics. Now,
What is autosomal statistics?
I do not claim to sit up here and understand everything about genetics. Okay, but
What
you
is
need to
autosomal
understand-
statistics?
You need to understand what
I'll show you what
understand.
autosomal statistics is. Since you won't do it, I'll do it for you. Hold on.
Go ahead, fine, not a problem.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and let BGP do her video real quick, please. Mute up. Mute up. Mute up.
We don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
hold on.
Holy shit.
This chart
Sorry.
for probably tell by the number of videos that are dedicated to it. I'm more of a Y-DNA researcher, but I thought it was important to give at least a very quick overview of autosomal DNA so that people had a more rounded set of videos to be able to look at. So if you sat through my first video, my part 1 video for Y-DNA, I went through this chart for all the different types of DNA testing that are common out there. And for autosomal DNA, really it's given by everybody. All the major companies have a version of autosomal DNA testing. It's very popular. It is, in fact, the most popular type of DNA testing that's out there. It does reach back. This is my little graphic for how far back it goes. It does reach back from you normally around 5 to 9 generations is when the pieces of DNA start getting so small that they're indistinguishable from noise, as well as you actually start to lose DNA connections to some of your ancestors. Not all of your ancestors back in this time frame actually have DNA that has come down to you. And we'll talk about that in this video.
Now, the reason that is because your autosomal DNA is on your non-sex chromosomes, the 23 chromosomes that get passed down by your mother and the 23 that get passed down by your father. So you're only getting 50% of one person's DNA. Now, this chart shows the probability of no detectable DNA. Meaning when you get to your first great grandparent, there's zero probability. There's still going to be DNA from them detected in you. But by the time you get down to your 14 times great grandparent, there's a 98% chance that you will not have any of their DNA. It becomes all noise. So while they're still genealogically your relative, they genetically are no longer your relative. And the same thing.
And that's autosomal DNA, not mitochondrial. That's different. We're talking autosomal.
Happens laterally with our cousins. For example, second cousins share DNA with each other more than 99% of the time. But when you get down to your 8th or 10th cousin, you share very, very, very little DNA. And this is how we're able to breed as human beings. The further in relation genetically you are, the less chances of having issues such as miscarriages, infant deaths, genetic abnormalities that cause physical or intellectual disabilities, and so forth and so on. The further out you are related DNA-wise is the reason why we can have children with each other as human beings. Therefore, if you have a percentage of quote-unquote Asian DNA, which means you have an ancestor that came from Asia, doesn't determine whether they're Chinese, Japanese, Korean, or any other Asian ethnicity. That was recent, within the last 5 to 9 generations, the last 200 years. And it's really dependent on the test and the data that they have on how far they can actually go back. Typically, most tests do 5 to 6 generations. Anything beyond that is noise and very, very hard to detect differences and changes in DNA. Now, mitochondrial DNA is not linked to autosomal DNA. It's on the X chromosome, which is the sex chromosome, which is not the same as the non-sex chromosomes. Therefore, they cannot connect to each other. They have different primary functions. And the way we use them with Ancestry is we take SNPs from each type of DNA. And all that is mutations in those different types of DNA. That's it. So therefore, if any Native American has any quote unquote Asian DNA in their autosomal lines, all of that is recent and it does not connect back to a haplogroup at all. Only mitochondrial DNA and Y DNA can do that. Now, where I think everybody is getting confused, not only with the language, but the perception of how things are being presented. Now, we are used to seeing family trees look like this, which gives the perception of a hierarchy, which is where the terms ancestors and descendants come in. Most people view ancestry and descendancy in a hierarchical way. But what if I told you our family trees are actually supposed to be sideways? And they should be overlapping each other, not just separate family trees. And what if I told you when we think of a family tree of mitochondrial DNA, when saying it's an unbroken line, oh, by the way, if mitochondrial DNA is an unbroken line and autosomal DNA continuously splits, that is also an indicator of why they're not the same. But I digress. We are used to seeing it look like this. Everything in dark red is someone who carries the same mitochondrial gene. That goes all the way back to quote unquote mitochondrial Eve in Africa, or what we now call Africa. So it makes it look like it's one straight line. But in reality, it really looks like this. As you can see, the person that is the common ancestor right here,
What is that?
descendants that do not carry her mitochondrial DNA.
I'm showing you that the common ancestor here has several descendants that will not have her mitochondrial DNA. It's only going to go down her daughter's lines. That's it. But all of these people here are still her descendants.
Right.
But they just don't carry her line of mitochondrial DNA. They will carry somebody else's line of mitochondrial DNA. But all of these people, it's still relatives, are they not?
Yeah, but it's two separate things.
I know. But my point is mitochondrial DNA, which he was using to determine our ancestry, he compared that to somebody's autosomal DNA test. That autosomal DNA test is recent. It's not the same thing.
But it's coming from a sample class that exists in East Asia, and if you have matches to them, that's what it's sending you to.
So
But
you would have got
all
your
it's
answer
saying is that-
if you
so-
let me and JB go back and forth,
let's
because
go
I
back
brought
to
up
the-
what
let's go
he's
back to
talking
the
about.
reference
If you
panel.
let him talk, if you let him talk,
No,
we're going to explain this part right here.
He already said he doesn't claim to know it. So
No, but
me and you.
if
So me and you are
if
going
he
back
comes
and
up
forth.
here saying that we've been debunked, then look, let me show
He's
you the
already said he
autosomal.
doesn't claim
All right,
to know
hold
it,
on,
so
hold
why
on.
you wanna argue with him?
Autosomal DNA statistics that he always talks about is literally describes the connection between genealogical relationship between two people and the amount of autosomal DNA which they share. Now, I can show you what that actually looks like. So that is literally this, which has nothing to do with that, those DNA matches or those DNA percentages, like I keep telling you. That is this. This is DNA autosomal statistics. That's your matches. That's what you're talking about. When you're talking about the actual percentages, again, it goes back to reference panels. Reference panels has nothing to do with your family.
What are those reference panels and how far back? Where do they get those reference panels from, Rob?
Okay, so the reference panels are people groups that are in an area, and then it's their genealogy they're putting up. That's how they get on the reference panels. So you're matching to say that you share markers with them, but it's nobody knows it's one person, 10 people, 100 people. You got to look at the test. So for instance, if you look at the reference panels for, here, I'll even bring that up for you. If you look at the reference panels for these groups, it could be 100 people, 200 people. I showed it in my video, but I'll bring you up a reference panel so you can see exactly what it is. It is not your people. So stop whenever you say that.
Right, a reference panel is 4 to
Right,
6
it's
generations that is
no.
confirmed to be in a
All
region.
right, hold on. Reference panel
So 4
ancestry.
to 6 generations, depending on the test, that is confirmed to be in a region. That's what it's saying. So they are taking your DNA, that
Here we
DNA.
go. I'll just
Go ahead,
say
read
it.
it. Read it.
I'll read it. So this is what a reference panel is. A reference panel is a set of people whose DNA is typically of DNA from a certain place or group. When you take an ancestry DNA test, we compare your DNA to the DNA in our reference panels to identify your ancestral origins. For example, to determine your ancestral regions, we find the reference panel DNA that's most similar to each segment of your DNA. Then we assign your segments to the regions they resemble. So if a piece of DNA is most similar to the reference panel from DNA from Togo, that segment will go into the Togo bucket. The reference panel for our ancestral regions has 71,306 DNA samples that divide the world into 88 overlapping regions and groups. And then here it tells you how many numbers of samples of these people. So they went to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. There's 54 samples. So they take your DNA and says, hey, does this have any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders? Nope. All right, you get a 0. Do they have any Arabian Peninsula? There's 208. Oh, yeah. So you'll get like 20%. Then they said, let's check Basque. There's 118 of samples. They say, oh, this looks like you got the samples from Basque. We'll give you 20%. And then they go and so on and so on. Now, when you compare it to other people, because if you don't have any family that take it, you still have those percentages. Now, if you have a brother, sister that take it, that's when it goes to autosomal DNA statistics that compare your relationship between two people. And again, it looks like this. And that's when you can use that your DNA splits and stuff. That's where this comes in. It's two separate things. So again, JB, since I just explained it to you, you want to explain it again?
Let me explain something to you. Yet the reference panels, it still works every day. Autosomal statistics is used every day to close cases as well as clear people from DNA testing. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what your problem is with autosomal statistics. It's clear that
you don't know what it means. You just know autosomal
clear.
statistics. That's what it is.
It is clear that you and Port City Vibe have a serious problem with understanding the use
Clear
of
that you're a hater and you come up
Don't
here
assume what
without
other
any
people
evidence.
are thinking or doing. Please don't assume what other people are thinking or doing.
My apologies.
Like,
My
please,
apologies.
dude. All
Everybody.
you do is come up here and talk junk, bro. Like, you've been doing that.
Look, here's the problem with you. Okay, autosomal statistics is used daily by law enforcement. They use it through their system to catch criminals on a daily basis. No matter how much you want to talk about reference panels, it works. It's a science that works daily. How do you explain it?
But you're talking about two different things. This is what I'm telling you
Sorry.
and everybody else. So while you're taking people's heads off and making pictures, do more research and studying before you do that.
Excuse me. If anybody that needs to talk about doing more research, you need to make sure that you get yourself correct, okay? Make sure.
Here, look, I'm showing you what it is. Autosomal statistics, right? Statistics. This is what it is.
You're doing the same thing that pretenders are trying to do.
No, you're not listening and conceding to the facts that he got on the page. Like, he's showing you exactly what he's talking about. But yet he's wrong in your opinion, right?
And I understand what
This is literally it right here.
What he's trying to do is
You just got a problem with us personally. That's what that is.
deny DNA testing. That's what the problem is.
There, just read it. Just read it, man.
I have read it already.
Just read it.
I've already looked it up.
Then what does it mean?
And I
What does it
understand
mean?
What you're trying to do. You're trying to deny
What does
the
it mean?
DNA testing. You're trying to
No,
deny the
I'm not.
DNA testing.
I've taken both of them. I'm not denying anything.
You're trying to deny DNA testing. It works already. How do you explain how it works?
Okay.
It's literally on the screen. I've taken 2. Have you taken any DNA test, JB? Yes or no? Have you taken any?
I really think we've gone off topic here.
Yeah,
To be
I
honest.
agree.
You know, it's a
jump back?
it feels like a tit for tat thing right here.
Can
right
I
now.
add
Introduce that wasn't. It
Yeah.
didn't happen until
Obsidian,
you invited
definitely,
JB. up.
definitely, you jump in.
So
Let's listen to Obsidian.
I'm hearing what everyone has a point here. I think there's what we need to do though is to come to an agreement on one thing. We already agree that the ancestry of all human population is out of what we now call Africa. Okay, we've got to that point. We all agree that we all have unique haplogroups and that Native Americans are not Asian, because I do hear Port City saying the same thing. He's saying we're not Asian. He's saying we have a common ancestor. And I think Rob is saying the same thing. We have a common ancestor with Asians.
Thank you.
Which is true. And the genetic studies have shown that. I'm hearing BGP saying we can't use these common DNA companies to compare these things because they're not accurate. They're estimates. And that's exactly what the artist is saying. He's saying we're using these genetic studies that are not, they don't have conclusive evidence. They're just predictions. And the reason why is because they're missing data. They're missing a lot of the Native Americans in the United States do not take these DNA tests for different reasons. And they have to do with our ancestors believed that our blood is sacred. There's a lot of other reasons why we don't do that. But so the data is missing. We have a lot of, go ahead, who was going to say something? Nobody.
No, please finish.
Yeah, and so without a really complete data set, which is what now Rob is talking about, this data set, and we call them data sets, but we also call them reference panels. Without a very complete reference panel, we can't get a detailed, complete footprint of where we come from. But BGP is correct as well, where she's saying that when you use those DNA studies, they can only trace back to about 3,500. And she's not just talking about the DNA studies, she's talking about genealogy itself. And then I hear Port City saying, yes, but there's archaeological evidence of older hominids, which is true as well. And so with all the information, I'm listening to everyone, I think we're all agreeing on the same things. Basically that when we argue about these things, we're arguing about them because of the DNA studies that we're using. So that's why when you use like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, you have to kind of like connect all of them. There's cryogenetics, there's different ones. If you get all of them, they actually work within each other. You can send these data sets to each other. And you have to download them sometimes. They have like certain ways. And then you can get a better picture of who your ancestors were. Now, there was one thing that I saw in the comments, which is really important, that Native Vibes brought up. And this is called, there's certain types of alleles, like the 9-repeat allele. It's very specific to Native Americans. And we do see them in some Asians. That's because we had reverse migration. Now, one of the things that I noticed that we haven't really brought up here, and this is really important, and I don't want to cause any I don't want to cause any problems by mentioning this, but I think we need to think about the migration, how we got here. And there is, in essence, when humans migrated out of Africa, which was about 100 to 200,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, they ended up in Eurasia. And from Eurasia, like 10,000 years later, which leads to 30,000 years ago, you see a group in Asia. After that, there's a Siberian group that turned into ancient Beringians. These ancient Beringians then ended up in what we now call Beringia for about between 10 to 16,000 years, making Native Americans a unique haplogroup. And I think that's the thing. And this is a study that was based in 2022 by Jennifer Raff that I'm quoting. So if you guys want to look that up. And I don't want you guys to take
several times. Yes, please proceed. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't want to be like overpowering and tell everybody, here, listen to what I'm saying. This is truth. No, it's going to be each one of you have your own truth, and every one of us has our own brain, and we can fact check all this ourselves. But I think that we're all coming down to the same, we're all saying the same different things. And some of us, I agree with BGP. We have to be careful with how we present things. We can't, the Native community doesn't appreciate being called Asian or Mongoloid or any of those things, because we have our origin stories. We have oral tradition. And that's where, like, Nativemamaz, she is not going to agree with the, let's see, the Beringian or, you know, the Bering Strait theory, none of that, because her ancestors, her relatives, her grandparents told her, this is where we're from. I agree with that too. My grandparents said the same thing. And so we do have to be very careful to be respectful to these origin stories. And if we can all come to agreements like that, then that's where we're going to have good conversations and get further in this conversation.
And the thing is, you guys may not like it, but that's just our preference. And I get it may sound pretendian-ish, but that's our stories. Those are our something that's been passed down and passed down and passed down from my ancestors. So I'm not going to veer away from that. You know, I do like
I totally get it. I really do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I respect everybody's indigenous stories. And I'm not trying to go against any of that. My whole point is what the genetic experts like Jennifer Raff said and stuff.
So,
you know, and I separate the two.
I want to share this with you guys because, again, terminology is important. So I'm going to play this because me and Rob went back and forth on this. And I want you guys to pay attention to when we're talking about what a common ancestor is versus descendancy or ancestry is. Okay?
Okay, hold it. Press pause for a second. Just 1 second, BGP. Becca, is that your name? Becca Ballas. What was you stating in the comments? What was you saying?
That a lot of people that are at least in Canada or in Alaska that are indigenous do have a lot of at least Chinese DNA when they do those tests. I've seen, and I do too. My mom does, and my family is from a reservation.
From where?
From my family's from Montana.
Who's doing that bell?
That's not Alaska or Canada though.
No, but a lot of the natives up there.
So they did the DNA study, and it didn't go much further than Alaska.
Yeah, I was gonna say the ones up there, they do have ties to that.
A lot of people from Alaska that are indigenous do have.
Yes, but you're including Canada.
We know
you
that,
realize how big Canada is.
Would ever claim that. I'm saying
no.
I
agree. They know.
I'm not saying that it would be anything that would pertain to what they are today. I'm saying that just literally, like I said, from people that came over were descendants of like people that are where they are in China now. That's what I'm saying.
Do you have proof?
Hold on. But this is why hold on.
I think BGP is onto something.
But we're not testing it. That's the thing, Port. She's not relaying the information properly. I can
maybe I'm
speak
just
to a lot of Canadian natives, and they're not testing. They're not testing. So you should probably be speaking correctly before you include the whole of Canada.
Ever like Chinese or anything like that. I know that.
Well, for one, we should not be generalizing. One, that's number one. Number two, nobody can say most or all or the vast majority when it comes to these tests, because again, how many, do you know the vast majority of people in Alaska? Do you know the vast majority of people in Canada? Do you guys know the vast majority of natives? To be saying
she was going to present
generalized statements of most people, you know, which could be 10 people.
You just had a common ancestry that she shared with them. That's all she was saying, and y'all beat her up for that.
No. She misinformed.
Hold on 1 second, please. I know. In Alaska, they actually said the natives up there said they do have some. They have ties to that,
right?
So I get
that. You spoke to a lot of Alaskan natives.
Natives that do, But also, this is why it's important to understand the differences between autosomal DNA and mitochondrial DNA, because people are confusing that with recent ancestry and ancient ancestry. That is where things are getting confused, because Nativemamaz, when you said that to Port City in his comments, you were talking about autosomal DNA. Our DNA tests don't show that. You're correct. A lot of Natives' DNA tests are not going to show what Port City showed. That was one person's DNA test. One person.
Well, and I also meant, and this is where I think, hold on one second. I think where it got taken kind of like out of context, I was talking about current day, you know, like us now. If we were to test, no. Well, there's a lot of us coming up with no.
But to be fair, the genetics. So when you do take tests, though, when you do take a test, there are going to be some Native people that have a common ancestor with Asians. That's why it comes up that way.
And that's why I said that. I said that. Not you won't
common
see
ancestor on an autosomal test is recent ancestry.
Yeah,
the common ancestor that they're talking about, when we're talking mitochondrial DNA, that common ancestor is ancient ancestry, and we all will share those common ancestors because we can only test for one line of mitochondrial DNA. Now, if you were to able to test, like if I were able to test my mom's, if I test my mitochondrial DNA, it's going to give my mom's, my grandmother's, and so forth, right? But in order to know what my grandmother, my mom's father's mitochondrial DNA, to get a better picture, to see more of my DNA, I would have to test my grandmother or one of her daughters.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
What do you mean I can't do that?
DNA. Because that will not be.
My grandmother on my father's side, my dad's mother, still has mitochondrial DNA. Her mitochondrial DNA does not get passed down to me because she's not my mother's mother. She's my father's mother. But that does not mean, stop. That does not mean that my father's mother, her DNA does not mean that because I didn't get it, doesn't mean it's not part of my story.
Not the mtDNA.
Holy fuck.
Let's just take a breath, please.
Bro, you can only see one line.
Yes.
That one line is not indicative of the entire picture. It's one snapshot of one line.
Okay, intermission.
Hold on. No, my father's mother, just because I didn't get her mitochondrial DNA does not mean that she's not my ancestor. It doesn't mean that her ancestors are not my ancestor.
That doesn't mean that.
I get that. But if my mother's mother, if my mitochondrial DNA says European, but my father's mother's says Native, because it doesn't show up in mine, that doesn't make me Native? Just because I didn't get my father's mother's DNA?
That's not how it works.
No, I think Rob, if I can intersect here, what you're saying is it is possible for that relative that she has, her father's mother, her grandma, is still part of her story, but you're saying it's not going to show up on DNA. Am I right?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying, Rob? Or
no, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
No.
Saying that.
Obsidian. So Obsidian. This is what I'm saying. When you're looking at just mtDNA goes toward the migration story, right? So when you go toward autosomal, right? So that's going to be the other thing she's about to talk about. It's going to be genealogical, genetic ancestry, both of those, but they're two forms of ancestry. When they look at all of these, it's literally all forms of ancestry. Just because you don't share an mtDNA with someone does not mean that you're not Native or whatever, because it still could show up in your genetics, or might not be.
Yeah.
That's why you do genealogy.
I think right here, that's where you're agreeing with her. Then I hear the same thing coming from both of you.
But it's two separate things. Like, you don't look at mtDNA. Like, I'm not sure why you would look at mtDNA off your father's mother's line when that's just not what the test is.
Because it's still part of our story. It's still part of us. What are you not getting about that?
So that mtDNA would be part of you, even though it doesn't get passed to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. The DNA.
But it didn't get passed to you.
The semantics, I swear to God.
No, it does not get passed. That's literally facts. It doesn't get passed to you.
mtDNA only gets passed down through one line.
Yes.
But my father's mother's mtDNA, even though it doesn't get passed down to me, their story, her ancestors are still my ancestors. So if my mitochondrial DNA line says European and my grandmother, my father's mother says native, that still makes me native, even though it's not showing genetically to me. I'm still genealogically native. That's why I'm trying to tell you, you cannot use haplogroups as a picture for everybody to say what they are, which is what you guys are doing. I got L. That means I'm African. That doesn't necessarily mean you're African. It means you got ancestors that came out of Africa through that one particular line. But you have 100 other lines that you're not going to see in a DNA test. But those other lines can lead to Europe, they can lead to Asia, they can lead to here. You're only seeing one picture, one line.
Yes. That's what
So
mtDNA
you
is.
cannot
Unbreakable
use
line.
these tests.
An unbreakable line,
But
specifically.
you're using, what you guys are failing to understand, you guys are using these tests to determine where people come from. And you
Ancient
cannot do
ancestry.
that.
We were talking about the people of America, specifically mitochondrial lineages outside of Africa when the L3 split into M and N. That's what we're talking about. And it has to be told in a way that the science is pointing. That so
And
when we look at this
I
stuff,
told you what, and I've told you all you had to do was say that these haplogroups, where they originate, that you cannot say that you guys are descendants or your ancestors are Asian. You can't say that.
Well, where does the genetic pool of the natives originate
You
from?
cannot say your ancestors are Asian.
Well, explain to us then where the genetic.
If you say our ancestors are Asian, then you can say our ancestors are African and our ancestors are European as well. You can say our ancestors are all of that because you're stopping right at Asia. We all agreed that the origins of humans come out of Africa. So then we can all say that our ancestors are African too.
When natives take a test, they have a strong genetic signal that comes back from East Asia. All
connects to one place. All of it.
And again, not
it's
all
just a stopping
natives.
point.
I'm talking about natives. The peopling of the Americas, and we're talking about these ancient sites.
The peopling of the world. Everybody. We already agreed. The origins of human beings. Human beings.
Hold on. Slow down. Let's just slow down.
Africa.
Hold on.
So what you're doing is you're making a hard stop at Asia.
On. Let's just slow down real quick.
Stop making a hard stop at Asia. If you want to
No, we're not doing that.
Everybody is our ancestor, which I've been saying the whole time.
Hold on, Brad. Sincerely, let's just slow down and go back to out of Africa, L3 splitting into M and N, and then those founding haplogroups A, B, and C. Where did those haplogroups originate from?
All it is, okay, let me say it one more time. All a haplogroup is a stop in the migration and where people split off from each other. That's it.
Okay, so those people don't carry any genes with them? They don't carry any genetic fingerprints with them?
Wait, listen to me. You're stopping hard stop at Asia. If this is the logic, if this is the logic you're going with, if you're saying that our ancestors are Asian, then you also have to say that our ancestors are African.
Are we all African to a certain extent? We're talking about different populations that evolved outside of Africa.
Can I
explain those different populations?
Can I answer the question for you though? You asked, where do the haplogroups A, B, C, D, and X come from? Is that correct?
Yeah, the founding haplogroups.
So those founding haplogroups, according to genetics, They come from the Beringian standstill model. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
Oh yeah, definitely.
okay. So the ancestors of Native Americans were isolated in Beringia, which is where the Bering Land Bridge is. And
Hold on, are you saying hold on, let's agree real quick. Are we talking about the subclade haplogroups? Or are we talking about the founding haplogroups, A, B, and C, versus versus A1 and versus A2 and B2, etc.?
Well, I'm talking about the haplogroups, the origin of A, B, C, D, and X, and their characteristic in the Native American populations. So in our populations, they originated out of the Beringian standstill model because we were there for between 22,000 and 18,100 years.
Some were there, not everybody. Some
around there. Yeah, and not everyone, because we do have, subsequent migrations. There's different migrations, but yeah, that is the theory that when they crossed the Bering Strait, they didn't cross the Bering Strait. They came through Siberia, right? And so when these are the ancient Beringians, and this took thousands of years of evolution out of Siberia. And so they became ancient Beringians, stayed there for between 22,000 to 18,000 years ago. This happened. And while they're there for 10,000 to 16,000 years. And so these haplogroups are characteristics of these populations that originated in that period. And so that's according to science. You can look that up.
No, I agree with you 100. Like on page 195 of Jennifer Raff's book, Origin, A Genetic History of the Americas, she explains that the East Asian group migrated to ancient northern Siberia. They did have that standstill, and that's where those sub-haplogroups originated from because of the isolation and the divergence of the time. When you diverge from a group, you do have a different mutations that will occur due to your
unique
separation.
Characteristics, correct?
Right, but you always have signature groups that bring you back to a mother group that originated somewhere, and that group would have originated in East Asia, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Now, I have never disputed that. What I keep telling you, and this is where the problem comes in, when you keep saying that we are descendant of Asians, but you can try to flip it, that part right there. Ancestral means that our ancestors were Asian, hence descendant. Stop playing semantics and stop trying to gaslight what I'm saying. And you guys have specifically, and I have the videos, you guys have specifically said that we are descendants of Asians. You guys have specifically said the words descendants.
Literally, calm down.
Obsidian, can you
Obsidian just explain the sub-haplogroups of the founding Pan-American mitochondrial lines, right?
Oh.
And we just talked about.
I am tired of being gaslit, and I'm
I'm just saying what part of that she did not understand. We just said the same.
Did I disagree?
Hold on. Mute up. I got a question real quick. Thank you. Obsidian, are you saying that we're Asians too? Or is that we're...
Absolutely not. So I'm agreeing that our migration came out of Africa through Eurasia, then Siberia. By the time we got out of Siberia, we are unique haplogroups. We're different. We're not Asians at all. Ancient Beringians are not Asians. And the more they stood in one particular isolated area, which is the Beringian standstill model, that means that our haplogroups are very unique, A, B, C, D, and X. And we're there for so long, we're isolated for so long that now we are unique characteristics and genetic markers. Not only that, our skin is different, our hair is straight because we're protecting the back of our neck from the icy cold tundra. So there's so many unique characteristics that changed because of the environment. So you see that we all pretty much have similar phenotypes, but not exactly similar. Why? Because people were migrating out of Beringia little by little in waves. Some went down the coast.
I got a question, Obsidia, real quick. Where would you inherit those genetics for those protective? environments? Where would those genetics? Where would you inherit those at?
In a very cold environment.
Right, like
Right.
northern Siberia, etc. Right.
Right. Yeah. So like if like let's say an African person came into that area and stayed there for 10,000 years, they would most likely not survive because they don't have that they have a vitamin D deficiency. They cannot survive. They have to have sunlight. If they don't have sunlight,
if it wasn't
a lot of things change.
So if it wasn't for East Asians, you wouldn't have inherited a genetic inheritance to survive those cold
Correct. I think
climates.
it's like SLC 24,
Right.
or
Yes.
245.
There's the East Asian gene for light skin that developed in East Asia, along with the.
And that only says that they are, there's an ancestral group to us. Like that means that we're not Asians anymore. Of course we're not. But we do have genes that came from them that are unique now, that we inherited from them. We inherited these genes for us to be able to survive the tundra. Correct.
Thank you.
See, and I think that's where the disconnect
I'm
is.
going to disagree slightly because, first of all,
If you migrated to Canada, you would develop a vitamin D deficiency. It's not a gene, it's a lack of sun.
I'm gonna slightly disagree real quick because, for one, I'm gonna reiterate: not everybody came through Beringia, and Native Americans are not the only ones that have the A haplogroup or B haplogroup or C haplogroup. I can't say for sure about D or X, but I know for sure A, B, and C are not exclusive to Native Americans when we're talking about parent haplogroups. What is unique is the subclades or the subhaplogroups. We are the only ones that have those. So I need people, again, you guys, the language is important here when we're talking about these things. So no, A, B, and C are not, again, I can't say for sure about D or X because I haven't looked particularly into it.
That's your reason as well.
I believe D as well, but we are not the only groups of people that have those parent haplogroups. We are not. This is
They're
why
not
this
talking
is
about. They were talking
problematic.
about the
I'm
subclades.
not done. What I'm saying is, this is where I'm slightly disagreeing with Obsidian, because when we're talking about subhaplogroups, yes, but the parent haplogroups are not exclusive just to Native Americans. I need people to understand that when we're talking haplogroups, and know the difference between parent and sub, because there are Austronesians, I believe they have B haplogroup.
We clearly said that this is a subclade haplogroup that
Yeah, I said
originated in
subclade.
East. We know that's what we said. I don't know if you heard us or
But
not.
when we're talking, but what you guys consistently, I have heard you guys consistently say, A, B, C, D, and X, those are the parent haplogroups. Those are parent haplogroups.
They are.
And those migrations don't just go through Beringia.
And some of them
Those
go through the Kelp
migrations-
highways. Hold on, time out. Some of them go through the Kelp highway. That's B2 and C1. And some of them came before the Ice Age. And some of them could have came maybe 30,000 years ago. And that's very possible.
It
But
is
when that ice-
possible. We already have evidence showing that
Right.
people were here 30,000 years ago.
Right. So just like Obsidian
But they
said,
weren't
you had a
either.
standstill incubation period where those.
Yes, with some people. Some. Not everybody had that standstill. Because people were here. That standstill was during the Ice Age. Prior to the Ice Age, there were people already here.
You can't get away from the founding haplogroups that originated in East Asia,
But
though.
those
X2, hold on, time out. X2
those
originated
founding
hold on, time out. X2 originated in East Asia. Haplogroups A, B, C, and D originated in East Asia. And then the
Again,
subclades, and then those
doesn't matter about the origination.
hold on, time out. Those subclades stayed in the place in Beringia, which we don't know because it's underwater right now. And we don't have any archaeological sites to prove that we had people there. But we do have genetics of the Chukchi. You have an East Asian group called the Chukchi that share continuity
I'm so glad you
with.
bring that up.
I'm just saying we have that. We have that. That's a genetic continuity that came out of East Asia. And I think you just got a problem with me saying that. I'm not calling you East Asian. I never said that. And me and Rob, we've always talked about the ancestral origin.
So again,
That's
I don't
it.
know how many times I can make it clear. I don't know how many times I can make it clear. They are not our ancestors. East Asians are not our ancestors.
Well, okay. Well, where did your gene pool come from then, Brown Girl Pride?
I already explained to you through genetic isopoints.
Well, right. So that isolated group that was in Beringia,
No, that's
that's where they
something
came
different.
from.
No, just haplogroup. Just haplogroup. Stop going
Listen,
into.
we're talking about haplogroups now.
Talking about because these things correlate with each other, that's the goddamn problem.
No,
is that
my
you
whole
guys
thing
are
was
trying to turn around and say that they don't correlate, and they do. Stop.
Look, East Asia.
You cannot claim people 30,000 years ago as being ancestors. You can't claim 30,000 years ago that certain African populations or they weren't even African populations. You can't claim them as your ancestors. These are your ancestors, 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 ancestors.
How are we going to trace back the lineage of human ancestry?
Okay,
how we do that without mitochondrial lines?
It's not about the lineage of human ancestry, because what you keep applying race. You keep applying race to the
I'm not saying anything about race.
I said ancestry. No, I said ancestry.
No, there is no
and migration.
Asian haplogroups. You're saying that they're African haplogroups.
And
they're
migration.
Yeah, they are not.
Let's let Port explain himself again.
Yeah, I said ancestry and migration. That's all I talk about. I'm not talking about personal race. We're talking about the movement of people and different human populations that separated themselves outside of Africa, and different climate changes and weather phenomenons like the Ice Age that gave East Asians and Europeans special genetics to adapt to an environment that was harsh to them. And you inherited these genes from East Asia, some in northern Siberia. Whenever Obsidian and I talked, we all agreed on an incubation period of these subclade haplogroups originating outside of America. They still wasn't in America. There was a place called Beringia. People don't understand that Alaska and Asia was connected. Don't get it twisted. That shit was connected. So to disagree about, to say, oh man, Beringia is debunked. No, the only reason they just can't find any artifacts is because it's covered with water.
Okay, so within that time, when the ones that came from that way migrate, when they mix with somebody else,
when it was connected, you're talking about Pangea, and there was
no. I'm not. Pangea is like 200 million years ago, as opposed to 30,000 years ago. Let's not get it twisted. No, I'm not talking about Pangea. I'm talking about
they weren't connected.
I'm talking about the LGM.
It was frozen ice that they crossed.
You could still cross Beringia right now. There's a bridge right now. There's a bridge. You could drive across.
You can cross that shit, man. Y'all act like it wasn't it never was there. Yes, you could cross Beringia a long time ago.
The land bridge.
That's how y'all got here. Come on, yo.
That's not what we said.
The land bridge theory, and I will say this a million times over and over again. The land bridge theory has been debunked as far as the first, because the land bridge theory states the first migration into the Americas was 11 to 15,000 years ago after the Ice Age. That part of the theory has been fully debunked. The only thing that it has only been updated.
It's been debunked, but I think the correct terminology is.
Hold on. Let me finish. It has only been updated to state that there were migrations that came through there. But as far as the first migration before the Ice Age, that has been fully debunked. So part of the theory has been debunked. The other part has been updated to state that there were migrations that came through there.
It has not been debunked because you still have a genetic gene pool. No, that's a lie, yo. You still have a genetic gene pool of a population that used to exist there. So what are you talking about?
If we want to use proper terminology,
like, yo, don't front like Beringia was never there, and Alaska and Asia never connected, and the haplogroups A, B, and C did not hop across the Beringia or the Kelp Highway. It was either two ways to get to America. You had
it has been debunked because we have archaeology. We have archaeology that shows people were here before the Ice Age.
Yep.
He could have been here before the ice formed.
Can I
No
can
one's
I can I
saying
say
You
that, yo.
something
even
real
have it in
quick?
one of your pseudo videos
So hey,
of people
can I
being
say
here
something real quick?
30,000 years ago. That was before the Ice Age.
Their date has been pushed back. Yes, people have been over here before before Clovis. That's what we're talking about. Way before Clovis. I'm not
Right.
disagreeing to that. The
Let's
ice.
put a
Listen, hold
pin in
on.
this.
The LGM froze approximately 15,000 years ago. The height of it was 25,000 years ago. Before that, you could have had a small group of people that came over here.
We do. We have evidence of that.
Right, and that's not what I'm. But where you come from then? East Asia. Before that ice froze up, you had to walk across here from East Asia because
Not
Asia
everybody
connects from
came
Alaska.
from there. Not everybody came from there.
Obsidian, what did you
Where they come
want
from
to
then?
Obsidian?
I'm saying not everybody took the route through Beringia. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, let Obsidian talk.
So the consensus among anthropologists, archaeologists is a subfield. Archaeology is a subfield. I'm in linguistics, but I did study, so I'm going to be very clear about that. I studied a bit of everything, but my focus is on linguistics. And but when I talk to my colleagues, other people, they always say that the Bering Land Bridge theory has not been debunked, but it has been updated and revised because, like BGP said, the dates are being pushed further back. And this is based on archaeological evidence and genetics. So we have found new remains in the Americas that pushes the dates back further. But the way we came through is still the same. There's no way that we came in any other way except through there.
That's a lie too. That's already wrong. So I'm going to reiterate again.
I'm talking about scientific evidence.
Yes,
I'm not
and
talking
there
about. I mean, you can
there
have
is
your
other
opinion.
There are other routes that
Yes,
have
but
already
if you
been
say
suggested.
that, you're opening it up to same type of pseudo history and pseudoscience, like
pseudo-history.
Ivan Van Sertima's belief that the Mali Empire came to the Americas. When you say stuff like that, you have to be very careful.
Maybe I need to give you more resources. So again, not everybody came through Beringia. The Kelp Highway is also another theory.
I mentioned the Kelp Highway. I did mention
cutting
that.
me off.
You act like you never heard what I said. I said either before the ice melt or the Kelp Highway.
There's also another theory of coming through South America through the Devil's Mouth or whatever it's called. That's another theory that is out there. This is not pseudo. These are theories because not everybody came through Beringia.
You said through South America, through the Devil's what?
I will reiterate what I've said and do not take me out of context. The part of the Bering Strait theory that has been debunked by saying that because the theory states the first migration into the Americas was 11 to 15,000 years ago. That is what the initial theory was. That part of the theory has been fully debunked. The part that has been revised, the part that has been revised about the theory, because the theory still stands, so it has been revised and updated, because we want to use proper terminology. It has been revised and updated to say, yes, people came through Beringia, but that is not the only route people came through. There are the Kelp Highway theory, and then the Devil's Mouth or whatever it's called in South America. That is also a theory.
I just want to say this. Look, I just want to say this real quick.
Rob, can
I'm
I
not
finish
sure.
the topic?
Oh yeah,
though,
go ahead. You got it.
Okay, and then I'll let you talk. So I do agree with the Kelp Highway hypothesis. That's still it has never been debunked or anything, but it doesn't negate the importance of Beringia either.
Thank you.
It's connected. So that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
Did I say that? Did I say nobody came through Beringia? Did I say that?
No, absolutely not. I'm not saying that either.
Then.
I just want to. I'm bringing that. I'm not talking to you personally. It's not about you.
My point is, no, because people misconstrue what I say all the time. My point is, when we're talking about the original theory and what the original theory states, that people came into the Americas, the first migration into the Americas was over the Bering Strait 11 to 15,000 years ago. The part that has been fully debunked is that it was not the first migration and that it wasn't 10 to 15,000 years or 11 to 15,000 years ago. That has fully been debunked. It has been revised and updated to say people migrated through Beringia.
Correct. But the kelp highway
That's
model,
all it says.
it occurs around 16,000 years ago. So it doesn't help. Like what we're saying, Beringia is older.
But we
And-
already have evidence. Beringia was still during the Ice Age. We have evidence, archaeological evidence of people being here at least 30,000 years ago.
And that is well okay. What we're saying
And
is it
that
could
is
have happened.
well
Listen, hold on real
before
quick.
the
Time out. It
Beringia
could have happened.
theory.
It could have happened before the ice melt. There was a
But we
landmass
don't
that you could have
know.
walked over,
All
or
they
the
all
kelp
are
highway.
theories. They're hypotheses and theories, scientific
We are
hypotheses
saying the
and
same
scientific
shit though. It
theories.
seems like, and it's like you just don't
Yeah,
like.
we're
the way
all
it sounds.
agreeing. I hear all the same things.
No,
Like BGP,
what
I don't think you're wrong either, but
No, because what the problem is, and I don't think because everybody does not see all the lives with these guys that I have been on. What they have said and what they continue to say and what Sutek says, it's not been debunked. It's not been debunked. And
Well,
then
you
you
can't
twist
say it's
up
been
on
debunked
that
either,
done.
though.
it hasn't been
So can I-
debunked.
It hasn't been debunked.
It's been
It
revised and
has been
updated.
debunked.
Updated.
Didn't I just fucking explain why it has been debunked and which part has been debunked?
stop.
Okay, BGP.
No, because I'm tired of people freaking misconstruing what I said.
Understandable.
I've already
I'm muting
said
everybody
what
right now.
Can check your messages, or Lala should be writing you.
I understand that, but the thing is that we need to start being respectful. As soon as we start like swearing and shit, I'm the only one that swears here. Just saying.
Oh bullshit! I do too.
Okay, well
I'm not
sometimes
gonna be phone policed either.
Yeah, but
They're gonna be gaslit.
check with Lala.
okay, the thing is that you're getting very excited and you're not listening. You guys are all really saying the same thing, but you're still like, no, it's debunked. It's
Because it is. And that is the problem.
Googled
You
it.
guys
It
want to
says
talk
that-
about proper terminology?
I googled it. It says I googled
Proper
it. It says
terminology.
I googled it. It says updated.
Again,
Who is that fucking bell?
reiterate what I've said.
Or is that you? Oh,
I guess you guys don't know how to listen. There's no active listening skills here at all whatsoever.
Can you show us where it says it's been debunked in?
Okay, let me pull up. I guess we got to pull up the definitions, right?
It
I
hasn't
guess we
been
gotta do
debunked,
that.
yo. Like, how is it
This
debunked?
is why I wanted to say
Like,
something.
that don't make
There are
sense.
So-
three theories
so-
there are three theories that make up the Bering Strait theory. One of them is Clovis first, and that basically means that the first migration to America happened 13,000 years ago, and they stand on that. Now, do you support that is the first initial migration into America post City Vibe?
No, go back to sleep, bro. We're not talking about that.
Okay, so again, that's Clovis first.
We
You have to
know that's
understand
been. We know that's the date's been pushed back. The date's been pushed back. You're what you're saying ain't relevant. We're trying to talk about is whether or not the kelp highway or Beringia has been debunked.
And solution hypothesis.
well,
Yeah,
but let's
like-
talk respectfully to him. He's trying to ask questions. He wants to see where you're coming from. And that way, if you guys are on the same page, there's no reason to continue arguing anymore, you know?
Yeah, just please let him talk. I'm trying to control it as much as I can with you guys. So
There are three theories that are a part of the Bering Strait. One of them is Clovis first. The second one is the Bering Strait theory itself, and then the ice corridor. Okay, so when the Clovis first was debunked, because clearly there were people here in the Americas prior to Clovis first, that part of the theory has been debunked.
I'm not supporting that, Clovis.
Only
I
two
don't understand what you're
things can
talking
be true
about.
at the same time. Why are you guys so adamant about two things not being
I'm not
true at the
supporting
same
Clovis.
time?
I feel like natives been here as much as 30,000 years ago. When we're talking about the Bering Strait and whether or not it's been debunked or not specifically. So do you have any information pertaining to that, my brother?
It is part of one of the three theories that support the Bering Strait. Clovis first was one of them. And Clovis first was debunked as not being the first migration into America. That destroyed the Clovis first model. Okay, which was held for a very long time here in the Americas. Okay? That's what is being said here. So,
No one's mentioned anything about Clovis. What is you talking about? I didn't mention Clovis. Stop putting words in my mouth. Do you know where the conversation is headed? Everybody listen, brother. Everybody's talking about the dates. No, but I'm just saying he don't know what he's talking about in the context of the conversation. We're talking about dates that is pushed back and whether or not the Beringia standstill happened. And why are you talking over me, bro?
In order for you to
talked
stop
over
talking about
Sorry, you talked over him. He wasn't finished talking. Let's just go with that format.
Yeah, let's hear him out. He's making a point. He's trying to tell us why they're not the same thing and why they're separate issues. And I agree with that too.
The issue is this, is that clearly somebody does not understand that there are three theories in one that are supporting the Bering Strait theory. One of them is Clovis first. Okay, Clovis first has been dismissed. Okay, when it says that the first migrations, the oldest migrations into the Americas, 13,000 years old. This was held up for a very long time in the scientific community as a standard until later pre-Clovis sites or human sites were found, starting with the discovery of the Montverde site located in Chile, basically dates back to radiocarbon dating of 18,000, 1600, 18 to 16,000 years ago. So when these human sites started coming up, it pushed back the so-called Clovis first theory. And this is what needs to be explained. And unfortunately, I don't think that I don't believe that these individuals understand that the Bering Strait was always three theories in one supporting another. Thank you.
Okay,
But you do agree that it's been updated though, right? Because that's what they're saying too. I hear that they're agreeing with you where it's been updated.
So before I go, because I'm about to go, hold on, BGP, because I was going to talk after Obsidian. So only thing I'm going to say is I'm not sure if anybody knows what actually science is, right? So in the very beginning, they had their hypothesis and their theory. Yes, Clovis first was there for a long time. What we've been saying is that was probably almost 10 or 16 years ago. Since then, current science, this is what we always talk about. We talk current science. The Clovis first has been, they don't even go with that. But Beringia was still there. That was still a mode of migration, just like there's other forms, right? So that's all it is. And we always said it's been updated, not debunked. And BGP, you even agreed to that on the live that we had. It's been updated, and then you go back to saying debunked again. Only thing it is what science does over time. Update. That's it. When we find out new information, they update whatever's there or they trash it. So far, they have not trashed it. They have said, okay, that's still a mode of migration, just like there's other forms, whether it's the Kelp Highway, whether they came by boat, whether they came, whatever the case may have been, it just pushed back the time.
So
That's it.
I'm tired of being gaslit. I'm sick of it. So I'm going to say this again for the 100th time today. The original theory says when humans first arrived in North America by crossing a land bridge that connected Siberia and Alaska, the migration route, humans walked across the land bridge, then followed a ice passage to move south in search for food. Time frame, humans may have arrived in North America between 12 and 14,000 years ago. Two things can be true at the same time, meaning that this time frame has been debunked. That's not true anymore. It has been updated. You can say this part has been debunked because we now know that humans were here at least 30,000 years ago. What is updated is that humans still came across there, but it was not the first migration into the Americas. I'm not disputing that, but it is also not the only migration into the Americas. So two things can be true at the same time. Certain information within the theory has been debunked, and it has been updated to state that. It has been updated to state that it is no longer the first migration. It is no longer 11,000 years ago because that information has been debunked now. Stop misconstruing what I'm saying.
Okay, so that's I understand where you're coming from, and I get why you're saying that it's been debunked, because now you're saying a new theory has been created. So that old one has been debunked. We're on a new theory. Is that what you're saying? So I just want to correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct. So the old original theory has been debunked because the old original theory stated that we were the first migration in 11 to or 12 to 14,000 years ago. That's what the original theory stated. We now know that that is not true, and that is what debunked means, something that has been proven to be false.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think what the problem is that scientists. Okay.
But it has,
Well,
and I
Tian.
will say it again, and let me be clear, but it has, so that part has been debunked. It has been proven to be false. It has, the theory now has been updated to say just that humans came across Beringia at some point. It's
Obsidian,
not
can I
the
ask you a
first
question?
migration. Why
So
can't two
Obsidian.
things be true at the same time?
So, if that's the case, right? If I'm going to ask you, so if that's the case that the original land bridge theory is incorrect, is there currently a land bridge theory right now in the last 3 years? Is there? There is.
So, like, if you look at the book Origins by Jennifer Raff and
Right here.
other geneticists and archaeologists, they still use the terminology the Bering Strait theory or Bering Land Bridge theory. They still use similar terminology, but
So that's my
I
question.
know where. I understand now where BGP is correct, though she is saying that the original theory was debunked. I'm not going to negate that. I'm going to agree with her on that. But the problem, though, here lies that we still use the same terminology for the current update version of it. That's the problem. That's where I think we're fighting over semantics now, even though she
And that's
is
what I'm about
right.
to.
And,
And
yeah,
that's what I'm
so
about
she
to
was
ask you.
feeling
So if
like
there
we're
is,
dismissing her when we're saying it hasn't been debunked. So we have to agree with her and say, yes, the original land bridge theory was debunked, BGP, which she's correct. However, the updated version, so-and-so, like we have to present it, the delivery of how we're addressing her it's dismissing her. And I get that. And so I'm gonna like, back her up on that part. But I also agree with what you're saying, Rob, is that the problem is that we're still using the same theories in science and they're still written in books and articles.
so my question, the continue on to my question. So since there is a current land bridge theory that's in the last 2-3 years, since there's still that theory, and we already stated that there is no Clovis model, we're talking about just the land bridge theory. Now, would it be accurate to say that the land bridge theory of at least 2 years ago is debunked? Would that be accurate?
No one's disputing. Again, who is
No.
disputing that people didn't cross the land bridge? Nobody's disputing that.
No. So wait. So when you say, right, the land bridge theory is debunked, because a lot of people say that within the last 2 or 3 years, that's why I framed it that way. That means we are not talking about the Clovis first model. We are talking about what the current land bridge theory states as of 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, if you want to frame it in that way, sure. That is what is the updated version of what the current land bridge theory is stating, that people just came through Beringia. But again,
Okay, so that's, but BGP, hold on. So that's what I'm saying. So you see, when you say that the land bridge theory is debunked, a lot of us are going on the current land bridge theory. A lot of people don't know that.
Problem when you guys are saying things, you're not being clear in what you're stating. So if you're not being clear in what you're stating, then you get people who are listening to these lives and they take the shit that you're saying and they misconstrue it and push it out. Because when you're not clear, and if you want to be intellectually honest, you need to be clear on your explanations, not just with
Then why are you saying it's
generalized
debunked?
statements.
She's
So
no,
if
but
you
she's
know-
telling you.
The
Wait.
original theory
Rob,
has
she's
been
not.
debunked.
Here's the problem.
Right. But Obsidian, hold on, real quick.
I kind of addressed it earlier. What she's saying is we did dismiss her, and what she's saying is semantics is important. The delivery of how we are presenting it is confusing people, because although we may be researchers or we may be scientists, like in the field of medicine or anything, or anthropology, we know, like, we can talk to each other on the language theory, but there's other people on like these apps that they don't know. They're just going to take that as, oh, okay, the land bridge theory was debunked. They don't understand that it's a certain part of it. It's the original part of it. So we have to be specific when we say those things.
Right.
So
that is true. But the only reason why I state that is because we've had this interaction for months now. So she already knows what the standpoint is. When we always say that we're not talking about the Clovis first model, this has been going on for a long time. So what I'm stating is, hold on. So what I'm stating is,
don't speak for me. Do not speak for me.
What I am stating is, hold on. I can play the video where we were talking about it.
Conversations and lives like this, when you and I are talking, we can understand that about each other when we're talking. But if we're talking, I was actually just speaking with Obsidian. Hold on.
So Obsidian. So you can go back to the video. These videos are for everyone right now.
Oh, goodness.
You can literally go back and look at these videos. Man, why do you keep muting me? What in the world? I'm literally just trying to explain.
I don't even have
look,
I think we need to start from fresh, though, because if we go back to what was said in the past, I think a lot of people were being disrespectful, to each other back and forth.
No. Well, that's true.
And so I think from this point forward, though, BGP is explaining to you how the delivery is important. It's very important to address it in a certain way, because there's people who are not aware of the science field that this involves. So we're going to be spreading misinformation if we don't deliver it correctly, is all she's saying. And I think you agree with that too. And so if we can come to a consensus and an agreement so that we can continue working together, because you guys are on our side. I see that you guys are not saying that Africans were here first. You guys are on our side. I can see that. I sense that from all of your work that you're doing. Port City, I always repost a lot of his posts, because I know that you guys are on our side. And BGP is just saying the delivery, some of the things you guys have said to her was, and maybe there's an apology that needs to be said. Maybe we need to just start over. But I agree with her. The land bridge theory, the original one, it has been debunked. Now we're on a different land bridge theory, and the new one has not been debunked since the last 2 years. She agrees with that. She just said that. So we need to go forward now and just forget about all those posts that we put up about each other and all the, attacking ad hominems. Like, those are not important in the actual work we need to do to be united in this.
All right, I'm just going to say this. Look, I got to get ready to go, but I'm just going to state this. This is the last thing I'll state, because I've seen this time and time again. When it was debunked, or when the Clovis model was not used anymore, we're talking about 2017. This is 2024. What I am stating is, within the last year to two, you can go back and watch these videos. We say the same thing about the land bridge theory, right? We also explain it. What a lot of people are saying is the land bridge theory is debunked. That's the issue. If they're talking about the Clovis first, I don't know why they're still talking about that, because that's old. We're talking about within the last 2 to 3 years, the land bridge theory. And you'll see it. If you ask her or ask anybody else, you're going to keep on hearing this. The land bridge theory is debunked. We're not talking about the Clovis first model. That's the issue.
So let me explain. Let me put it in maybe a context you don't understand. There are natives that will go around and saying the out of Africa theory has been debunked. I correct them every time that they do, because it has not been debunked. It has been updated to say it was in East Africa to now it was in South Africa where it started. That is an update. Yes, the entire theory itself, the original theory of that Homo sapiens originate out of Africa, that has not been debunked. I have never disputed that. When people come into my comment sections and say it's been debunked, I correct them. And I make sure I use the proper terminology and explanation when I'm talking about that. When I talk about out of Africa, I say specifically we are talking about Homo sapiens. I don't say a specific race. I don't say anything like that because that would be misinformative. I make sure I use the proper wordage, just like when we're talking about ancestry. When we're talking about ancient ancestors, that is a common ancestry, which is not genealogically related to us. Layman people will sit there because I've seen them do it. Not just the pretendians, because when you guys started saying this, it wasn't just not pretendians saying that our ancestors were Asians. It wasn't just pretendians calling us Asians. It was other Pan-African people doing that because of how you guys were saying it. And you guys wanted to make fun of me by saying, please stop saying it that way. It's not correct terminology. So even when we're talking about this, we have to use our words correctly when we're explaining these things, because we're explaining these things. And I've told you this before, Rob, we're explaining these things to a lot of people that don't have no science background at all whatsoever, do not know how to properly research. And a lot of people have a literacy rate of a 5th grader. And that's facts. So if we want to be intellectually honest and we want to call ourselves educating and educating people, we have to do it correctly. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it, because the misconstruing of that information, because then you can go back and say, which I have done, when people say, you said this, you said this. No, here's a video where I exactly said what I said. You cannot twist my words. If you twist my words, you are being intellectually dishonest. You have a low comprehension problem at this point. And I'm not going to argue with somebody. I'm not talking directly to you. I'm talking to anybody who's going to come in and say the out of Africa theory has been debunked. It has not been debunked.
Let's keep the microaggressions at a minimum. So accusing people, like saying things like you don't know or you're uneducated. Let's not do that. We're adults. We should be able to.
I was speaking in general, and I said that specifically. So again, when we're talking to people,
twice, and I'm catching everybody else saying it. So I'm just saying this for everybody. Okay.
Right. So I want people to understand. I want people to understand.
Can I talk? Let me talk, please. So let's just not.
Okay, I'm back.
Of their education or what they can comprehend or anything. Let's get rid of that. Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, BGP.
What I am saying, and I will say it again, because I don't know how much clearly I can say the things that I'm saying. So either people don't have active listening skills or whatnot. But what I am saying, again, if we are going to be having this discussion, and I've said this on your guys' lives several times, then we, 1, should be using proper terminology. 2, should be explaining what that terminology means when we're having these discussions. Now, can we sit there and take full responsibility of how people are going to intake that information? No, but what we can do is continuously repeat the proper ways of how we're explaining things. So that way, I do this, I don't know how many times a day on several lives when I sit there and explain things like not to use terms like full-blooded, because it is rooted in eugenics. I will say it over and over and over again until people get it. I don't just say it one time and say, oh, well, that's what it is. That's part of being an educator. I come from a family of educators and teachers. Literally, you have to repeat yourself a million times over and explain things, maybe in different ways so people can understand it, but you need to explain it and explain it in proper context, because if not, then we are being part of the problem of the misinformation being put out. And we are being part of the problem of how people are using this rhetoric of using it to be anti-native or anti-black. So when I see natives turning around and saying that the out of Africa theory has been debunked, I will correct them and say, no, it hasn't, because the out of Africa theory states this. And I've said it on several lives on several occasions. So because I say that, if they continue to do that, then they are being willfully ignorant at that point, or their comprehension skills are low. That's a fact, period, point blank. And I cannot teach somebody who is not willing to A, learn, or B, they just don't have that comprehension. It's not, we can't do nothing about it, but we can always correct it, and we can always correct the anti-nativeness that comes out of it and the anti-blackness that comes out of that.
Can it be just our opinion?
Opinions.
Okay, so you agree.
Opinions and facts are two different things. Facts are facts. And if you put your opinion into the fact, you better make sure that your fact is backing the facts are backing your opinion.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm
Someone better
clear, so
back me
you
up.
agree on the current land bridge theory as of 2 years ago. You agree on that, correct?
Yes, and I've not disagreed with that. But the original land bridge theory, which is what most people think of, the original land bridge theory, where it states the first human migrations into the Americas between 12 and 14,000 years ago, that has been debunked. The current land bridge theory that has been updated states that people migrated through there. And it's not everybody that migrated through there. I can agree with that. I have always agreed with that. I have stated that there were some people that came through the land bridge. There were some people that probably came through kelp. There was probably some people that came up and through South America, that they went to Australasia and then came up. Those
And where
are
did they
all
migrate from?
possible migrations.
And where did they migrate from?
What?
Where did they migrate from?
All over the world. Can we move on already?
I just want to be clear.
It's like a broken record. We keep going over this.
I didn't
I have a
disrespect
question
her.
for
I didn't do
Robbie.
anything
I
of
don't
that.
Hold on 1 second.
So, but when she can do this, and then if I want to,
Okay, Rob, 1 second. I just
Go ahead.
got a question. Did you guys get enough views and get enough clips
views and clips from what?
for your YouTube? For your, TikTok?
I don't have any views and clips at all.
Oh, we caught the conversation in the comments.
What was the conversation?
Yeah, it was. They've been recording us, guys. I'm just letting you guys know. So
I haven't been recording anything.
I ain't recording now.
Look, here's a tip. When I'm on panel, I don't record anything.
I'm not recording.
yeah,
now.
but we've been recorded and
Hey, people
yeah.
record
Well,
it,
I
other
haven't
people
recorded
do it. I'm
anything.
not doing it right now.
I'm asking.
I mean, I think
like,
you guys
look,
are personally, I feel like you guys
So-
were antagonizing her just to get your
Okay,
views
so
up
hold on.
and get a
So
video.
wait. No, this is actually being real. And this is the point that I was sitting here asking you. So she's been blatantly disrespecting and saying off the wall stuff. Now I haven't
Like
done
what?
that to her
No,
at
she
all.
was
Hold
saying
on.
off the wall
Wait
like what?
wait
Like
a
what?
minute.
Be
Wait a minute.
specific.
Look. Hold on.
Be specific.
Hold on. So you can say, just like I was trying to say before someone muted me, you can say, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to tell me. I didn't talk to you like that. And I have never talked to you like that. You can say anything you want to anybody you want to, and people are, I don't know if they're afraid to talk to you or anything like that. But I'm telling you right now, if I did the same exact thing to you, everybody in this panel would have feelings. People in the chat would have feelings. It's just I have more respect as you as a human being not to even do that to you. And I'm getting like this because it's just kind of ridiculous.
You
Y'all
can
got
get
some
however
kind
you
of-
want to.
Yeah,
I'm
and if
not
I get
gonna
any way I
control
want
you.
to, I'm telling you like this. If I get any way I want to, you're going to have a whole bunch of people in here being really mad. I'm just not going to do that to you.
You don't act like people don't sit there and like they're talking shit in the comments now. She's been cussing. I'm getting tone police this whole goddamn
I'm
argument.
talking to
I've been
you.
gaslit this
I
whole
am
goddamn
literally
argument.
talking
So
to
I'm telling
you.
I'm
I am
telling
talking to you,
Your question
BGP.
to me every time we're on a live,
And
is
I
the
will
same
ask you
question
again.
over
And you know
over
what?
And I'm
I'll
not going to
ask you
answer it
again.
again. I'm
And
not
look,
going to
and
answer it
you don't
again
have to,
because I
but I
made it
will
very
ask you
fucking
again
crystal clear on
because
what
you're
I
not going to
said.
tell me what I can and can't answer.
And I'm not
you
going to
understand
answer
that, right?
you. You can ask me all goddamn day. I'm not going
Well,
to
and that's
answer
fine.
you. I'm
And
not going
that's
to answer
fine.
you.
Okay, so I
And
think
that
we're
is
I've
very
made it
fine.
very crystal clear on my position on all of this.
I am just telling you,
While
you're not going to
sit
tell
there
me what
and
I can and can't do.
misconstrue and do what
I'm not misconstruing
Yes,
anything.
yes,
I
you
am
have.
telling you,
Yes, you
I
have.
am not
And
going.
I'm
You're not
posting
going
it
to
all
tell
to
me
YouTube.
what
You
I
guys want to
can
post your
and
shit to
cannot
YouTube?
do.
I'll do the same thing.
Well,
And it's all
post
going
it.
there.
We don't
I
give a
will.
Post it.
I will.
I'm just telling you, you're not going to sit here and tell anybody what they can and can't do because you
And
ain't
you're
want
not going
nobody
to
to do
sit
it to
here and
you.
complain about disrespect when I have been consistently disrespected by
Man,
your
get out of
syndicate
here with
over
that.
and over
Like,
and over
yo,
again.
look.
I don't make posts about you like that until you make posts
Neither
about me.
do I. All I do is debunk your
You
misinformation.
sit there and tag
Okay.
me. No,
Yeah.
BGP, I don't hardly say
I think
anything
we're
to you.
good.
You tag me,
tit for
and
tagging?
then
I
damn.
think we're good.
I'm not up here for all of that,
I
y'all.
gotta go.
Let's get
You
back on
guys
the
have a
subject matter
great
real
day.
quick.
I'm gonna go. Thanks for the live. Hope you guys got
Yeah.
your recordings. Have a good night.
Hey,
I'm
everybody
literally
get this
over the
book,
fighting.
Origins by
I'm like
Jennifer
over the
Rath.
fighting,
All right,
really.
peace to
Let
y'all.
me put this out
Y'all.
real